Thank you for listening to another episode of Remake Rewind. This episode is brought to you by Audible.
Whoa.
Alex, do you know anything about Audible?
I don't. What is it?
You fool. I will tell you everything you need to know about Audible. Audible is a great service where you can get hundreds of thousands of audiobooks, and we are actually partnering with Audible right now, and we're going to give you, Alex, this is for you. I did this for you.
Can other users do it too, though?
Absolutely. Any of our listeners can use this. They can go to audibletrial.com/remake-rewind.
So it's just for me and my legion of fans.
Exactly.
Your fans don't get it.
No, my fans don't get it. But if you sign up for our trial offer, you get 30 days for free.
Holy crap.
And you get a free book that you get to keep forever. Even if you cancel the service, you get to keep it.
Okay, but what if I'm a Prime
live in Los
member?
Angeles. If you're a Prime member, after the trial period, you get 2 books a month.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so it's pretty tight. I work in Los Angeles. I'm in traffic all the damn time, and I have listened to pretty much all the Stephen King's books on Audible, and it's fantastic, and I really think everyone should check it out, and it's a really great service.
That's great. I agree.
Yep.
Let's do it.
audibletrial.com/remake-rewind. Check it out.
Oh, yeah.
On with the show.
Let's get it on.
Remake, rewind, blast from the past. Does it stand the test of time? Remake, rewind.
Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind. I'm Mike, as always. With me, I've got my buddy Alex. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. This is a big episode. This was supposed to be our first episode together.
Yeah, and much like the movie that we are focusing on today, it was delayed for a year and a half.
Yeah,
2 years?
so
2 years, really, right?
but year and a half. It was supposed to come out in like May of 2020. So yeah, so we're gonna be talking about 007. Originally, when Alex was a baby-faced, fresh podcaster, never done a podcast in his life.
Bright-eyed, the world looked so enticing. Everything was open.
Yeah, we were going to do, and I'm kind of glad that we're not doing this because that episode would have been so fucking long. But we were going to do the first appearance of every Bond actor, and we decided not to do that. And because, what's that face, man?
We did do that.
We did do it. No, we didn't actually finish recording it.
We didn't release that?
No, we never released it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, dude. We never even finished recording it because it was so long. We were like, we're going to have to do a second session, and then the world shut down.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, so we were going to
No!
This was supposed to be Alex's first episode. We were going to do every Bond on their first movie and pick them apart, let you guys know which Bond was the best, which is not something we normally do, but it was super long.
We
had
talked
some
about a
technical
lot of these
difficulties.
movies, though.
We talked about the first 3. I think we did Timothy Dalton, Sean Connery, and Roger Moore, and we didn't get to Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig before we were like, God damn, this is long. And it was your first episode, and we had some technical difficulties. So
Right.
we were like, we're gonna record this again and finish this up. And then the pandemic happened. The movie got delayed to November of 2020, and we're like, oh, we'll do it again. Like,
How
we'll just
long could this
re-record it.
possibly last?
Exactly. And then this time around, we're like, we're not going to rewatch all those movies. Maybe we'll do the last appearance. And we're like, that's going to be too long. So we decided that we were just going to do, I wanted to just do Pierce Brosnan's last movie and Daniel Craig's last movie, the one that just came out, No Time to Die. And Alex is like, no. Let's do ones that have die in the title.
I love that impression.
And it just... But it happened to work out because Die Another Day also happened to be Pierce Brosnan's last Bond movie.
I feel like
So
there's
we're
some
doing-
I think there's a lot of Easter eggs to other Bond movies in No Time to Die, but I noticed a few specifically
They're quite
to
a bit.
Die Another Day.
Yeah, they're quite a bit in that one. So we're doing Die Another Day, and I'm really annoyed because apparently it was free on Amazon, but I paid to rent it.
Idiot.
It didn't pop up in the app that I normally use to see where things are streaming for free. So
You fool.
I paid $4 for this movie.
What I do is I just ask Siri. I say, hey, Siri, show me Die Another Day.
So on the Apple TV, it doesn't always work for me. Sometimes it'll show me like the Apple TV options, and like that's it.
Well,
Where
listen, it
on
only
the Fire
takes 2
Stick, it shows me.
seconds, so I just do it every time.
Yeah, so it's fine. It's fine. We support the arts. We'll
That's true.
$4 to support the arts. It's fine. We got to support that Broccoli family. The Broccoli family who produces all these movies.
We got to help those broccolis get some cheese.
But I'm ready to talk about it. Obviously, Bond is a huge franchise that's been around for going on 60 years.
Maybe one of the biggest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was Bond 25. There's
Yeah.
technically 26 films. There's one that's not technically canon because somebody owned the rights to a specific storyline, and so it was made separately. But that's fine. But
I think that
I'm obviously
is this the biggest franchise? I mean, the only other bigger franchise would be Marvel, right?
in terms of movies in it, yes, I think so.
But all the
And
Marvel
I'd say-
movies are directly connected, and Bond is not.
correct. Bond has only a few movies that are loosely connected.
Except for these last
all
5
the-
movies. These last
except
5
for
movies.
except for the Daniel Craig ones.
If
they're
you guys
all
haven't been
connected.
checking into Bond movies in the last 15 years, all 5 of the Daniel Craig movies are telling one continuous story.
Yeah,
With a
which is,
beginning, a middle, and an end.
some people love that aspect of Daniel Craig's Bond. Some don't.
I like it.
I personally, so do I. But let's talk about Die Another Day. Do you want to summarize it, or do you want me to summarize it?
I mean, what can be said about Die Another Day? Why don't we let's do this? We're not looking at show notes on this episode, folks. If you've been listening to the last few episodes, you know we've had some shenanigans with Mike trying to do some funny business in the show notes and trip me up. But today we are raw dogging these movies, and I think it's an excellent opportunity to point out how fucking convoluted, honestly, both of these movies are, but especially Die Another Day.
Oh, for sure, they're both very murky.
Let's tag team raw dog this Die Another Day explanation, and
Ooh,
try to
okay.
keep it under a minute, and let's just see if we can figure out what the point of this movie is.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, you start.
All right. Pierce Brosnan, 007. He's surfing into North Korea with a couple of other agents.
That's right. He's in he begins an operation in North Korea and takes somebody else's identity to sell them conflict diamonds, right? And then he's revealed to be an assassin. So they go on a high octane thrill ride through the demilitarized zone that's filled with mines
On hovercrafts.
that for some reason leads directly to
The end of the world.
yeah, well, no, to like the end of the road that just has like a little temple, and then it falls off a waterfall or a
A
cliff.
giant cliff, yeah.
I'm not sure why that road leads to that, but at any rate,
Before
Okay.
he does this, though, he blows up the conflict diamonds and makes Diamond Face out of one of the henchmen named Zhao. That is a super missed opportunity not to call him Diamond Face.
I know I was calling
as
him
opposed-
Diamond Face the whole time.
Exactly. But he creates Diamond Face, and at the end of the chase, he seemingly kills Colonel Moon.
Throws him off a cliff.
Yep, throws him off a cliff, and then he's captured for like a year and a half
14 months.
as a POW, man.
He was in quarantine. Oh, this is taking a lot longer than we thought it was going to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just speed run it.
All right.
Let's see if I can do it. All right. So at this point, 007 is maybe a spy that turned on MI6. M has him quarantined because she thinks he may have turned sides and given information that he shouldn't have given. That's quickly abandoned for seemingly no reason. He escapes, and MI6 is just like, oh, well, if he escaped, he's probably fine. So he goes to look for these diamonds. He ends up in Cuba, and he finds Jinx, played by Halle Berry, and she does the walk out of the beach in the swimsuit that Daniel Craig is famous for, but she did it first because it's based off of Dr. No.
Yeah.
So, Daniel Craig, eat it. You didn't do it even second.
Why does Halle Berry have a knife in that scene, by the way?
I have no idea. But she meets them, or they meet each other, and they do the sex, and it's fantastic, and it's great, and they love it. Of course, they both suspect each other of being spies, but they don't really talk about that. But they both go on a super secret spy mission separately from each other at this like underground genetic alteration plastic surgery expo where bad guys can get plastic surgery and new identities. They find Diamond Faced in mid-operation, and now he kind of looks like a albino with diamonds in his face still.
He looks like Neo after he got flushed out of the Matrix.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. Then they leave Cuba and go to London, and they figure out that this eccentric billionaire Gustav Graves is basically making GoldenEye again.
He
at
sure
this point,
is.
the plot it basically becomes GoldenEye. If you don't remember GoldenEye, it's a satellite that just has like a laser that destroys shit. And this is a satellite. Instead of a laser, it reflects the sunlight and makes a laser.
Much more environmentally friendly.
They go on this 20-minute sword fight with Gustav Graves when he's still pretending to be an eccentric billionaire, and Bond is, I guess, supposed to be an eccentric billionaire too. But he gets invited to Gustav Graves' Icarus launch, which is the satellite I mentioned. But they have to go all the way
Unfortunately
to
named.
Yeah, they have to go to Greenland to go to their ice palace, and he actually has like a palace made out of ice, which of course that'll come into play. Quickly, Bond is revealed to be an agent, and he has to stop Project Icarus from destroying the world.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's very convoluted and very hokey, and that's very, very much what the later Brosnan films and Roger Moore films were really about.
Should we say the final act of the movie is them using Icarus to destroy the demilitarized zone to carve a path so that the
That's
North
right.
Koreans can go into
This
South
movie
Korea
had like
and attack?
3 endings. It's like you think, okay, they're going to defeat the bad guys in the ice palace, but then they kind of shoehorn in and tack on them going back to Korea.
There's some amount of
to
like
take that on.
multiple endings and convolutedness, and like in any other movie, Gustav Graves appearing in the middle of the movie, even though, spoiler alert, it's the North Korean general that Bond seemingly killed in the beginning of the movie. But this like character just appears in the middle
Colonel.
of the
He was a
movie.
colonel, not a general.
Thank
His
you.
father was the general.
Thank you. And normally that would be like a weird thing to just introduce the villain mid-movie. But like I feel like Bond movies kind of have their own vibe, you know. They're playing to their own tune a little bit. And that's true of the Daniel Craig movies too.
Yeah, that quite often happens where you find, like you also had Frost played by, why am I blanking? Rosamund Pike. This was her first film, like live action theatrical film debut. So good for her,
Yeah.
getting a Bond as her first major movie. So that's pretty.
She
cool.
got a nice little twist too.
Yeah, she was a double agent.
That was like one of the
in that movie.
moments in the movie that I was genuinely like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but like, there's a 50-50 chance of the Bond girl being
Sure.
a rogue agent. Like that happens quite a bit.
Sure,
so.
sure. But this was, a tired trope executed well.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, this movie, this is not looked back on as a classic Bond movie or even a good one. People were clamoring for it to be rebooted after this movie.
Yeah, it's not a great movie. Well, I think Pierce Brosnan was supposed to be in Casino Royale.
They gave him the option initially. He said no, then they said yes, and then they decided just to completely go a different direction because the director of Casino Royale actually directed GoldenEye, and so they got the same guy to reboot it twice. Yeah. So they gave him the option, but he was 49 years old when he did this movie. So I mean, still significantly younger than Roger Moore was while he was still making these movies.
Yeah, Roger Moore's terrible. So
it's funny enough. The Roger Moore movies are the ones that I tend to like more. Now, I'm not a huge, I don't go back and watch these Bond movies all the time, but when I was younger, my dad would watch the Bond movies every time they'd have a marathon, and Roger Moore did the most of them. So for whatever reason, Roger Moore is always the one that my mind goes to, and then it's Daniel Craig, because he's obviously the one that I got to see all the ones in theaters for.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this movie has a lot of scenes that a lot of people talk shit about as being just low points of the series. Pierce Brosnan said this was his least favorite Bond movie to make, and it's his least favorite Bond movie he was in. Roger Moore saw it, and he was just like, I hate all the CG, and I hate the dumb story and the redundant story. And it really is. Like, they really copied GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Like, it's odd that you would have the same basic premise for 2 Bond movies from the same actor.
It feels insulting to the audience.
I agree.
I was watching, I was just
Like,
this is GoldenEye. It's less interesting
yeah,
GoldenEye.
it really is. And like, it has this movie has a lot of CGI in it, and honestly, I didn't think the CGI was as bad as people say it is. Like, I've heard so many people in podcasts over the years just shit on this movie about like the surfing scenes, and like the first surfing scene honestly doesn't look that bad. There are 2 giant surfing scenes The second one is significantly worse because it's the ice palace melting and he's surfing it with a parachute.
I mean,
But even that, honestly, for 90 or what was this, 99?
I think it was 2003.
Oh, was it that late? Okay, for 2003, it wasn't
Well,
fantastic.
I mean, listen, there's Marvel movies that came out within the last few years that have
some wonky. I mean, Shang-Chi
yeah.
had some wonky
Yeah,
CGI.
exactly. That is unforgivable for the time it is. Big air quotes, unforgivable. But I still enjoyed the shit out of Shang-Chi because it's a good movie and we know that we're watching CG and whatever.
Right.
Unless it's like a stick drawing. I think there's some what am I trying to say? There's a margin of error that we allow as audiences.
I agree.
If a movie is garbage, it's a much smaller margin of error.
And I don't think for this time that this was really that bad. Like you said, I've seen movies much newer than this look worse. Like, so I honestly give the CGI a pass on this movie.
What bothered me more than the CG is at no point did I think that James Bond, the character, was actually concerned about, the labor, health, human rights violations that go into conflict diamonds. And he kept on bringing them up. And I just don't think that he gave a shit about it. He didn't talk about it in any way other than...
He just mentioned that it's illegal once.
Yeah.
That's it. It's weird.
Yeah, he didn't talk about it in any way other than to try and get to the bad guy, get to the next step of his journey.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like they even try to like bypass the conflict diamond thing by saying like, and I don't even know how, like, did this guy just shave all the serial numbers off of him? Because he just, like, the cover story was Gustav Graves found a strip of diamonds in Iceland. And
how did this guy create a whole new persona for himself, by the way? Like, all of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere and he's been making these diamonds in Greenland or whatever. And I know it's like 2003 and we don't have Google and we can't Google every single person on Earth. There's not a paper trail until he was born of Twitter. But like, there must be, I mean, there is a paper trail. There literally is. There's no evidence of this rich, brilliant person before he started selling these diamonds.
Right. And they try to explain it away as if he was just like a average guy and he didn't have really a presence and he stumbled across these diamonds and became like super rich super fast. But like the only person who seems to like question this of course is Bond. He's our good guy. And then M reinstates him because she's like, oh, you think Gustav Graves is a bad guy? Me too. And then like
Dame Judi
reinstates
Dench.
him. Dame Judi Dench, one of the carry throughs to the Bond series and when Daniel Craig took over, which I think is great.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Can we talk for a second about how awful the theme song is?
Oh, it's super bad. I wrote down some of the lines like Sigmund Freud, analyze this, Madonna.
Oh, poor Madonna. She's in the movie
Madonna
too.
had a cameo in it too.
I know. That's what I just said.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, she's that was weird, man. I generally like Madonna, but there's some odd choices in her career.
Topical. She's been, I don't know if she has a new movie coming out or album coming out or what, but she was in the news because she's been showing her butt a lot lately, and everyone's like she's in her 60s and got butt implants.
Yeah, because she photoshopped herself onto somebody's body on a fan's
and then
body.
she went on Jimmy Fallon and like made him very uncomfortable. So
did you see the
topical.
Photoshop thing though?
No, I didn't.
She put out a photo where she like digitally inserted her head onto a fan's body, and like it's like a 25-year-old woman.
That's weird.
And it just like has Madonna's face, and they found the original picture and put them side by side.
That's funny. I didn't hear about that one. I just saw I heard about her and her plastic surgery, which, you know what? Do you. I don't care about
who
that.
cares about that?
Like, but yeah, she made Jimmy Fallon really uncomfortable trying to get him to touch her.
Ugh. Speaking of plastic surgery, I thought that Diamond Face had a lot of potential as like a pretty classic type of Bond villain. Like on paper, that seems really cool, and in practice, it didn't quite work. And I like that actor a lot too.
Yeah,
I don't remember his name. I have to look it up. It's Tony something.
Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff during this time period, the early 2000s, and then he kind of just went away. But
real handsome guy too. I think he should have killed that role. But the like, I think it's the Neo look. It's the missing eyebrows and shaved head. It just like didn't quite work.
Yeah, it could have been awesome, and like that's one of the things that I kind of miss about the Bond series is that we haven't had like a cool henchman in a long time. Like Jaws was such a cool guy, and he came back in multiple movies. Then you had Odd Job. You know, the kind of villains that were, you know, spoofed in the Austin Powers movies, random tasks. Like, that's not really
Who
a
actually
thing
killed
that
somebody.
we've got. Exactly. And I think, you know, this obviously ended up
the
being
actor actually
Brosnan's
killed
last movie.
somebody.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It's really,
The,
really bad
the
stuff.
random task, not odd job, right?
The short guy. Yeah, random task, right.
Yeah, the one from Austin Powers killed a
correct.
guy. So, yeah, that's no good. But God, this movie, it's hard to pick out anything that's good in it. Like the fencing scene was awful. Like when he first meets Gustav Graves, he like challenges him to like a fencing duel, and he's supposed to be a damn near Olympian. Like he might go to the Olympics, and he's being trained by Rosamund Pike's character, who did go to the Olympics and won the gold in mysterious circumstances because the person who won the gold conveniently tested positive for drugs like the day after their match.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's such a good example of like the convolutedness in this plot. Like again, I feel like that's a trope of 007 movies, but this one was just like, why is
it's too
anything
much.
happening moment to moment?
Yeah, like it could have just let her be a silver medalist.
Yeah.
Or just hint at that you know, there was mysterious circumstances. You don't have to like tell us everything. But they start off with. Oh, go ahead.
I've got something that I liked in this movie.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about the fencing scene real quick because I thought that was just painful to watch.
Mine is just one sentence.
Go ahead,
You
man.
brought it up. When Q gives him his watch, he says, "What is this? The 20th watch I've given you?" And I think it is actually
was the 20th movie. Yeah, no, that's pretty good. I caught that too.
Yeah.
You saw the jetpack, not Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Sean Connery's jetpack from Russia with Love in there.
Yeah.
So
there's a crocodile back there too that I'm curious about.
yeah, there were a lot of nods to the original movies in this. One of the things, your watch, and then I'll get back to the fencing scene. The watches have always played a big part in all the Bond movies, and he uses like a laser watch to cut a hole in the ice at some point, and then he uses the watch for something else. But then at the end of the movie, when they're going back into North Korea, and they use like clippers to get through the fence to get back in. Why did they not? Did he not use his laser watch? Like we've literally seen him use his laser watch to get through a fence in like GoldenEye. It was really odd that he used the watch twice and then not at the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's just like convenient for the plot. The active camouflage or whatever they call it, the stuff that makes the car invisible.
The car.
Is a similar thing. Like it just stops working randomly, and then it just happens
And
to
then it
come
comes
back
back
on at like the perfect moment. And also he ducks behind the car at some point while it's invisible to like so that he's invisible essentially. But earlier on in the movie they say, "Oh, this thing
The
works
cameras are on
because
the outside."
Yeah, that's what he says, Mike.
That's stupid. That makes no sense. I didn't even catch that. That's so dumb.
Yeah, silly. Like, wouldn't your picture be displayed on the other side of the
You just
car?
see the back of him on the other side of the car.
What's that guy doing?
He's just sitting there. I mean, honestly, that could be like a good strategy. Like they start shooting at him, they're like, "Oh my god, he's invulnerable. The bullets are bouncing right off of him."
It would be a better strategy if they couldn't see him, though.
Right.
Which I guess
But,
is what happens, but it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. But like I think the most egregious thing in this movie, which just makes no sense, is that the fencing scene when Bond first meets Gustav Graves. They challenge each other to like a little fencing duel, and Bond initially loses by 2 points. Like the first to 3 points wins, and then on the third point, Bond gets his wrist, and Gustav Graves freaks the fuck out, and then he goes and grabs like a real sword versus like the fencing sword, and then they go and basically destroy Xavier's mansion through this like sword fight, and it just keeps escalating. And then like the end of it, like Frost stops it, and they're just like, "Oh, it's cool. Why don't you come to my little like gala party?" And it's just like, why the fuck would you invite this guy that you just fucking tried to kill?
Yeah,
it just doesn't make any sense.
I think at that point, James knows that this guy isn't what he seems, and obviously Gustav, who is really Moon, knows exactly who James is. So I think there's a little bit of like subtext there.
No, absolutely. But like, why? Like, it's an issue with Bond movies in general. Like, this is where the trope.
Bond is like super out of line, letting the situation escalate like that, and putting all those other people's lives in danger.
I absolutely agree, and that's a a thing with Bond, that he's reckless and everything. So like,
yeah, but like
that part I buy.
Yeah, exactly. Like on paper I get that, but watching it in the movie, I'm like, this seems a little excessive. And like to what end? It's not like they're in the end game of this situation.
Well, and Pierce Brosnan is the most killy Bond. Like he has the highest body count of any of the Bonds.
I didn't know that.
So Yeah, so like honestly, that part doesn't bother me. What bothers me, and this is a trope with all the Bond films. I mean, it's a trope in movie, but it really in movies in general. But it really started with Bond, where the bad guy, puts themselves in situations where Bond could stop them. Like, why even invite the guy to the thing? Like, you know who he is, and he does have the comment when he's talking to Diamond Face. He's like, "I just spent 10 minutes fighting Bond, and Bond had no idea who I am." But it's just like, why put yourself at unnecessary risk? Like.
Yeah.
Bond's going to know where this thing is. He's going to show up, but like, why invite him?
That's kind of what I was thinking when Bond is like escalating the sword fight for no reason too. Like both those things feel like something that would happen if the characters have some sort of like deep-seated grudge against each other. And that's not really in this movie. Like they are just enemy combatants. They're spies from opposing teams. It's not like Vesper and Daniel Craig's Bond later on. There's not like, there's not a passion.
A real connection. You're right.
Yeah. Or connection or like deep-seated grudge, like a personal vendetta.
Right. And then the other thing with this fight that was really bad was like when they were doing the fencing looked great because obviously they're in their little fencing outfits and the masks, and you can get actual fencers to do the fight. Yeah. But once they remove the mask and go onto the full-on like sword fight, the fighting wasn't as good because you obviously have the actors doing it, and they even had to speed up the footage to make it look
I didn't catch that.
Somewhat exciting. It was really egregious to me. I looked it up to see if that was the case, and it turns out they did speed up the footage because the footage it would have been really boring if they didn't.
They're like very trigger happy with the speed ramping in this movie. There's a lot of like establishing shots where we're like, oh, looking at Greenland or something through the mountains, and then we move at the speed of a bullet over like a mile to zoom in on.
It's super
which
weird.
Is like, it's like a common effect, but it looks so cheesy here.
And then something,
and they used it a million times.
There was like this other like weird laser thing that was super like they captured Jinx, and they it's like the Sean Connery when he was in the laser, like, what, you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die. And the laser's like going up to his crotch. They do the same thing with Halle Berry in this movie, but
way less interesting.
When Bond shows up to save her, like he hits a button, all of a sudden there's like it's like a mining facility, but it looks almost more like a car robot, assembly line, and you just see lasers going around, and like Bond and Diamond Face are just like dancing through the lasers, kind of thing. Like it was absurd.
It looked like that scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back when the girls do whatever through the lasers.
The diamond heist.
They like dance through,
and then they fart, and then the noise. Yeah.
And it feels exactly as stupid as that, but
one
is serious.
It's really bad
to be funny.
Do
you want to just shotgun our notes or what's wrong with this? I have like 10 notes I can quickly.
They invented VR porn in this movie.
Oh yeah, dude, that was so stupid. That was such a disservice. That's so disrespectful to Moneypenny.
Yeah, it's super.
She did two things in this movie, and they're both in VR. Yeah. One was Die, and one was fuck James Bond.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, this version of Moneypenny in like the previous movies with Pierce Brosnan is like super thirsty for him. But yeah, it's pretty weird to have like, it's weird that that's even an option in this. Like they have these VR glasses that just look like sunglasses that are supposed to be for training.
Yeah.
And then like,
well,
did Moneypenny program it, or did Q program like a fucking scenario in it for people?
This is right at the end of that like hackers of the net virtuosity thing where the internet was just whatever we imagined it to be, and VR was everywhere and stuff. And then like everybody actually got on the internet, and that's not what it was. It was just memes.
I feel like something like this happened in real life, where somebody like made a digital copy of somebody. Like I feel like it's just like a huge, like it's just morally wrong to like create like a porn based off somebody, and like they just basically, that'd be like, if it's just weird.
The other frustrating thing about that scene, like double disrespectful to Moneypenny, is that she like looks like a fool, and then immediately afterwards James is fucking Halle Berry.
That part was weird, and it's like, don't pull it out.
Well,
Finish with it in.
Yeah, like that scene's weird in and of itself, but to juxtapose Moneypenny having this fantasy and then James fucking somebody else is like really mean to that character.
Yeah,
Moneypenny's done nothing but suffer James's fucking advances over decades of film, and totally did her disservice here. I didn't like that at all. Like as a fan of the series, I thought that was lame.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, like that whole pull it out thing was weird, or don't pull it out. And then they're also fucking on the conflict diamonds.
That would fucking hurt. And it's fucked up. Like you mentioned, the conflict diamond already. Like people suffered for those.
Yeah, and like I mean, I don't want to get on like any kind of high horse here, but like specifically people from Africa, right? And then they have Halle Berry fucking on top of them. She's a black woman. Like, I don't know. That put a bad taste in my mouth. That was a weird choice by the director.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, man. This is also, it's kind of an ugly movie. There's a lot of weird choices. I'm thinking specifically of like the secret Cuba hospital scene. There's a lot of like weird lighting choices.
Well, and that's
and that's highlighted by going to see No Time to Die Later, which very successfully does a lot of things that I think this movie tried to do. And you know, we're comparing movies that are 20 years apart and very different budgets, so not entirely.
It's funny
fair,
that you bring that up. There's a God, I just saw this. I see it every once in a while, and I watch it every time it pops up on my feed on Facebook, or if I just randomly find it online. But there's a guy who did a video essay about the cinematography of Bond films. And he really uses a lot of the Pierce Brosnan movies, and of course he uses all the Daniel Craig movies to show, but he does show some of the Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton footage. But like prior to Casino Royale, cinematography wasn't really anything they put any emphasis on. Like a lot of the stuff is just, here's the whole room and you can see everybody in it, and it's just, you know, it's like, you see the two people talking.
Yeah, it's
There's
like
no
a sitcom,
close-ups
it's like
and
a TV movie.
Yeah, and then when you get into Casino Royale, they're like, we need to make this stylistically interesting. And then we start getting like really interesting effects and the camera moving. Like the camera does not move for a single shot of this movie.
Yeah.
Like people move through the frame, but the frame does not move.
You know, one of the things I remember about GoldenEye is that it had a lot of, I think it had a lot of style, speaking about cinematography. It's not trying to do what the Daniel Craig movies later on did, but GoldenEye had a lot more style than this movie. Like they put thought into it, and I think this one was like, well, it's got Pierce Brosnan, it's gonna look good, we'll just light it in a moderately interesting way, and that'll be it. Like there's not a lot of thought put into it, but I think like GoldenEye was like
second.
Yeah, GoldenEye was like I think GoldenEye's a well shot movie. I think it's a very, you know, interesting movie to look at. This one, not so much. This one looked a little vomity.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a good movie. This definitely needed a reboot of some kind. And
yeah, I want to just give you a few of my notes with no explanation, no context notes. Is this how minds work? Saved by the Bell? Michael Madsen?
Yeah, Michael Madsen was a little weird in this movie. He didn't really do much.
No. What if he used the closet?
What if he used? No, I can't think.
He's
Some
in
of the mind.
He's in the hotel. I think it's in China or something. He's in the hotel, and like the concierge, or the hotel manager, is like very nice
Oh,
to him
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And then later he gets up to the room and he shoots the closet, and the closet breaks down. And there's just like a camera crew back there spying on him. Like, what if he just used
throws
the closet?
Yeah, he throws the ashtray.
Oh, right,
and it breaks a two-way mirror.
All of the wordplay with Halle Berry is awful. Like, she's terrible in this movie.
I mean, so Katrina was watching this movie with me, and she made the same comment, and we're like, how the hell did she win an Oscar?
Yeah.
Because she's not very good in really anything.
Yeah, and
like,
this isn't necessarily her fault, but just speaking of GoldenEye also, I feel like GoldenEye, I mean, every other Bond movie is about deconstructing sexist tropes of the old Bond movies, but I feel like GoldenEye really hit that. GoldenEye was really talking about James being a dinosaur, and you know, the world has changed, you need to change with it, and blah blah blah. And they're sort of having their cake and eating it too, but it was very aware of how prominent the sexist tropes are in the older movies, and Sean Connery and Roger Moore and stuff. And then this movie feels like it just went right back to that. It completely ignored how meta GoldenEye was, despite trying to be exactly like it.
They take, they, like you said, have their cake and eat it too, which is funny because I've got a movie. When we get to what have you been up to, bud? I've got a movie that did exactly that. That's exactly how I phrased my review of that movie. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Halle Berry is also consistently the worst dressed. Every room and scene that she's in, she's the most goofiest dressed person.
It's because they want to like make her stand out, but I think the whole point of a Bond girl is that they are so beautiful they stand out wherever they are.
Yeah, or something like
and
that.
Yeah, like that's supposed to be the point. They're gorgeous. Like, yeah, you still put them in like a gorgeous gown, but like they put Halle Berry in like bright colors, so she really actually stands out from the crowd. And
she's gaudy.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's It's not a good movie.
Speaking of outfits, what is Moon's like power suit? It like electrocutes you if
Oh
you touch
yeah,
it.
that didn't make any sense. I forgot about that.
Why does it
was
have
like
shoulder
the
pads?
bison
It's just a
suit
VR
from
format. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Yeah, he wears this like exosuit,
Yeah.
and I think it's originally supposed to control the Icarus,
Right.
but then yeah, like he,
Like it literally is just an operating system. Like he's just wearing a
his
big
father,
iPhone screen.
yeah, his father is like, dude, I know I'm like from North Korea and I hate South Korea, but like you're crossing a line, and he tries to kill his own son, and then the son just like electrocutes him, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's weird.
That's like a very we're sort of having fun and taking easy shots or low hanging fruit at this movie, but that feels like it would have really improved it in an interesting way to have a whole story about this general who thinks his son is dead and then finds out his son is really alive, but it turns out he is crossing some line that this North Korean general wouldn't cross in terms of human rights violations or whatever, and he ends up trying to kill his son for the betterment of the world. That's super interesting. Why isn't that the B story to the whole movie?
Right. Well, and then like why? Like it's really odd to like bring like
What if
007 and gadgets is fine. Like I don't have an issue with a suit that electrifies people. Like that totally makes sense in this franchise,
Sure.
even this version of the franchise. But it's super weird that it comes so late in the game. Like,
well, it's also just like
at least mention they're building a prototype suit for him,
or it could even
somewhere early in the
even
movie.
not be designed to electrocute people, and like a wire came loose or something. Literally any explanation for why it's doing the thing that it's doing, but they just present it as like, here is a virtual reality suit that controls the Icarus. By the way, it also electrocutes people when you touch them.
Yeah, that's weird. Like, even if they just made a comment at some point, like if Zhao was like, "Hey, Gustav Graves, aka Colonel Moon, your prototype armor suit is almost ready." Like, even that, you're like, okay, you wouldn't have to explain the powers. At least we know there's an armored suit kind of thing. Like, we would forgive it. But yeah, it's just a little weird that it came out of nowhere.
Why did that shit get stabbed with the art of war? It feels like it
I
should
don't
be
know,
a
man.
metaphor, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it's trying to say.
I think it was just no subtext to it at all. It's just on the surface, like, oh, this person died in war.
Oh, that's pretty on point for the movie then.
Yeah, but yeah. Needless to say, this movie got rebooted, and we're gonna be talking about the new one in just a second. No Time to Die, which is gonna get rebooted. They've already said that they're gonna announce whoever they get sometime in 2022 to replace Daniel Craig. So obviously, this is a series that's gonna be rebooted over and over and over and over again until these movies stop making money. Because at this point, this movie was the most successful financial Bond film. So this movie still made a ton of money. Even though it was bad, people still want Bond.
Die Another
and
Day.
they yeah.
Die Another Day is the most successful Bond movie?
It was at this point, up to this point.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
that makes
Skyfall is
Yeah.
Skyfall's the most successful one now.
That's wow, that's pretty crazy. I mean, I guess that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense because it looks like they cut a lot of corners with the budget.
Yeah. But what have you been up to, bud?
Yeah, man. I watched Unforgiven for the first time.
That's
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. I almost said Chris Eastwood.
Yeah, and this classic movie that I've known about forever, and it just was kind of a blind spot for me. And I got the hankering to watch a Western last week, so I did that. And it's fantastic. Such a good movie.
I almost watched a Western. I almost watched Fistful of Dollars.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I decided not to.
Yeah,
I watched a stoner comedy instead.
You made the wrong choice. I watched that Tom Cruise movie, Oblivion.
I like that movie.
Yeah, another one that, I mean, that's not it's not as old or classic as Unforgiven, but something that's been on my radar for a long time that I never got around to.
Oh, you hadn't seen it before?
Yeah, I never saw it. And I went into it with low expectations. I feel like I remember hearing bad things, and it's great.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed this film quite a bit when I saw it.
Yeah, I understand why it's sort of been forgotten, but I enjoyed it. I was surprised at how big some of the swings were, even in terms of just like budget and scope. That it got swept under the rug so quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I saw it in theater. I haven't gone back to it. I don't know what streaming service it's on. I think it's on like 2 different streaming services right now, but it's in my queue.
I think it's on HBO.
Yeah, like I have it in my queue. I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. I watched The Guilty with Jake Gyllenhaal, the new Netflix joint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's good. It's very intense. It
Better
is
than Velvet Buzzsaw? his last Netflix movie? 'Cause that movie was awful.
Yeah, there was some stuff in that movie that I kind of enjoyed. Like, it's not a good movie, but I like seeing Jake Gyllenhaal as an art critic hamming it up. Yes, better than that though. I guess it's based on I want to say it's a Scandinavian movie, or it might be. I think it's Dutch actually. Apparently the original version's better, so I might go back and watch that. This is written by Nick Pizzolatto of True Detective fame.
Oh, okay.
And it was directed by, Anton Fuqua, who did Training Day.
Okay.
So it's got that's the vibe of it.
Okay.
But it's cool. It's I'll give you a little primer. You haven't heard of it, right?
No, I have. I've heard of it.
Okay, but
I saw the trailer for it. I
okay.
I watched it.
Well, for our listeners then, Jake Gyllenhaal is a police officer who's been demoted to desk duty, or to doing 911 dispatch, and he's having a real hard time with it. And the whole thing takes place like over the course of a night, and it all takes place inside of the dispatch office, and he's basically trying to unravel a crime that's happening. I don't want to give too much away, but one location, Jake Gyllenhaal's in every single scene, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and I think it's pretty cool, man. I think it's worth checking out.
Nice.
I
Cool.
got two more. I watched the Bob Ross documentary.
Yeah, I watched that a couple weeks back.
Yeah, it was good. It made me very upset.
The thing
The
that I didn't
injustice.
like about that was the trailer for it. Like the trailer for that was like, we can't even show you a trailer because it's so like unbelievable. And it's just like, okay, so he was just a regular dude.
Well,
Like there's nothing that for him. I mean, the ending part when you find out his business partners are
it
terrible.
makes it seem like he was a fucking dog kicker or something.
Right, but he is like he's just kind of a regular guy who got taken advantage of by his business partners.
Yeah, I think he was like an uncommonly nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It kind of like everybody knows Bob Ross as this like gentle painter, and then this ad was like, you won't believe the sort of corruption and betrayal that happened in this story. We can't even tell you about it here. You're gonna have to watch it. And then you watch it, you're like, oh, that's pretty fucked up, but it's not as bad as you sold it. Huh.
And it wasn't Bob Ross who did anything fucked up. It was they fucked over his family.
Yeah. But having said that, I really enjoyed it and definitely worth watching.
Me too. Yeah.
And then Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which I think we're going to talk about separately.
Yeah, we will. So
stick around.
So I'll just just left one company and I start a new job. By the time this episode drops, like it'll be
Congratulations.
actually no, it'll be just a couple of days after. But my old company is like super afraid of like corporate espionage. So when you put in your 2-week notice, they pay you your 2 weeks and just tell you leave today. So I've had a lot of time. Been doing some projects at home and I've watched a lot of movies. So I'm just going to kind of shotgun them. I might talk, briefly about a couple of them, but I watched Eyes of Tammy Faye. That's in theaters right now.
wanna see
The
that
independent film about the bakers who created like the largest I can't even fucking say it.
Televangelist.
Yes, thank you. They created a network, but they were like really just grifters and con men.
Yeah. Andrew
but
Garfield too,
it's
right?
Andrew Garfield and Jessica Chastain. But the movie was really fun. Like the way they set it up is it's almost like, oh, this is just like a romantic comedy or just like a romantic story. And it starts off just like really sweet and bubblegum and everything. And then it starts slowly getting into all the shit that Andrew Garfield's character did, and who's a real person. But it was really good. It was a really enjoyable film. Katrina really wanted to watch it, and she doesn't go to the movies a lot. And, it's an independent film, so we wanted to make sure that we supported it. And it was really fucking entertaining. It was bizarre and weird. I watched I Care a Lot, which had Rosamund Pike. That was a Netflix original movie, and she's a grifter who takes advantage of the elderly and basically steals from them. But it was a really good movie, except for the last, the ending was bad.
Yeah.
But the movie itself was great.
Keep going.
You have a question? Oh, okay.
I have something that I forgot, but we'll circle back to
Oh,
it.
okay. I watched Josie and the Pussycats from 2001. We just were bored and we're like, let's just throw something on. And I just picked that at random, and I really enjoyed it.
It fucking holds up.
It's a perfect movie that it has its cake and eats it too, because it's just blasting, mainstream media and pop culture and the music industry and movies and product placement. But there's not a shot in this movie that doesn't have product placement in it. So even though they're bashing product placement, they're still getting the money from these people. But it was really fun. It was really stupid, but I had a blast watching it.
Yeah, love that movie.
I'll shotgun the last few. So Pineapple Express, This Is the End. Just love those movies. Mystery Men. I went back and visited Thor: The Dark World because we've talked about over the last few months and all of our bonus episodes for the Marvel movie Shang-Chi and Black Widow. We keep kind of comparing them to like, well, it's no Thor: The Dark World. Like Thor: The Dark World is kind of like the black sheep of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd go back and rewatch it, and honestly, it's fine. It's not as bad as people say it is. It's
I think the worst movie that Marvel has done, which is probably that to me, is still like a C-.
Yeah, it was still enjoyable. It had some good stuff in it. And then I finally got my projector set up for my birthday. Katrina got me a new screen. It was much nicer than the one I had, so I had to redo my office / man cave / theater room again. But now I've got like a really nice pull down one versus like one that I had to put on poles and stuff. But yeah, to christen that, I watched Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it's still fun.
Yeah,
it's still fun. And Mystery Men. I watched Mystery Men as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Stupid.
I tried.
Oh, did I say it?
I tried rewatching Mystery Men, I think a year or so ago, and I couldn't do it.
I got through it, but it's bad.
Yeah, which is funny because I remember, I feel like I look back on that movie, or I have looked back on that movie for years and thought, oh yeah, that's like a underrated gem. And I tried rewatching it, and it is not.
I loved that movie when it came out. I used to watch. I had that on VHS.
Yeah, maybe we've had too many better superhero deconstructions.
Yeah, probably.
Is that it?
Yeah.
The one that I forgot is Squid Game.
Oh, Squid Game! I watched that too.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna bring it up. Dude, that was really good, man. I really enjoyed that.
Okay, spoilers really quick.
Yeah. Spoilers.
One thing, and it's 2 games, but 2 games to me didn't make sense. So like, initially we don't know much about it. Like, it's entirely possible that it's just some eccentric billionaire paying to give these people, a new opportunity, like Saw.
Right.
Kind of thing. But then it's like episode 4 or 5, it's revealed that they're VIPs. So we find out later on that it's a lot of billionaires are betting on this, and that's how it's funded. Right. But some of these games, like if you're a fucked up billionaire and you want to see people die, some of these make sense, like Red Light, Green Light. Makes sense. That's kind of interesting to watch. The Tug of War, interesting to watch. Even the final game, the Squid Game, interesting to watch. But there are a couple games in this that I'm like, I wouldn't pay to watch this if I was a fucked up billionaire wanting to watch people die. Like the licking of the cookies. Like that's not interesting for like to watch that live. Right. Like from a narrative standpoint, it's interesting, but like, well, have these billionaires watching it. That's not interesting. The marble game really wasn't interesting.
Which one?
When they're playing marbles, and then also the
I think the marble game and the sugar honeycomb is what it's called. Are both. It's like it's the same reason that people are into like gore porn, like the later Saw movies or what I can't think of other gore porn movies now, but I think that there's something that appeals to a certain person, and like if you're a billionaire that wants to watch people die, then maybe like the depravity and the fucked upness of that is appealing. Maybe,
but it's just like they were like,
I feel you though,
super excited about the Tug of War, like. From a narrative standpoint, like I was fascinated by it because you're like, once you figure it out and you see like the people with the umbrella, you're like, oh, those people aren't going to make it through. That one's fucking hard. I thought it was really interesting to watch, but then I'm like, man, like watching this like live, like if you were basically watching a stadium of people just licking a cookie, that's not that interesting. So I just thought, some of those games weren't very interesting for that kind of premise. But no, the show is fucking fantastic. I watched it all in like 2 days.
Yeah, I think we watched it in 2 or 3 days. I hope they do a second season. I feel like
me too.
I feel like I was a little, I don't want to say let down, but I was a little deflated at the very end.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think if there's like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 seasons of this, then that will feel like a necessary resting point between seasons, right? But if this is the only thing that exists, then I feel a little let down by the end.
Yeah. I there's no way they're not. This is the biggest Netflix show of all time. Yeah. So much so that it was crashing the internet in North Korea, and the North Korean government, South Korea. South Korea, the South Korean government is suing Netflix and saying that they should have to pay for some of the bandwidth. Wow. Because like Amazon, Facebook, and some other large internet companies pay for bandwidth in different countries because they know that they are taking a majority of the traffic. Yeah. So yeah, Netflix got sued, or is getting sued, to maybe potentially pay for some of the bandwidth
Good.
and the infrastructure to support the show.
Good.
So interesting.
Gorgeous show too. Like so much thought.
Oh, beautiful.
So much thought put into every aspect of this show, but especially the visuals.
No, it's an incredible show. I think we should get into. We're running long,
Yeah.
and so we need to get into.
Let's do a part 2.
Yeah. No Time to Die. This one's yours, bud. Summarize it.
Oh God, hold on. I wasn't ready.
You want me to do it? I'll just fucking bomb through it, man.
No. I want to do one.
I'll do it.
I'm gonna do it, but I'm just pulling up the Wikipedia so I have a guide.
While he's pulling that up, I just want to point out Daniel Craig was 51 to 53 because obviously this got delayed.
Right.
So he's probably 51, 52 when this got filmed. So he was older than Pierce Brosnan was in his last film. So just so you guys know, just a little fact while
little
Alex
fun
looks it
fact,
up.
little factoid. All right, so as you recall, Madeline Swan is James Bond's third love of his life in a 10-year period or something. So they run off together, and I guess James is sort of retiring, and we're treated to a flashback showing a young Madeline Swan witnessing the murder of her mother by Mr. Robot, and then he saves her.
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury. And we cut to James and Madeline on vacation in Italy, right? They're in Milan or something.
Yeah, it was Italy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because that's where Vesper died.
Yeah, so he goes to visit Vesper's grave, and it blows up, and there's a rip-roaring chase through Italy that culminates in James abandoning Madeline and saying, "You betrayed me, I never want to see you again," and putting her on a train and disappearing. And then we cut to 5 years later.
Yep.
And then we find out that there's a bioweapon with nanobots that infect people like a virus upon touch and are coded to people's DNA, so that you can target exactly who you want to kill, and it's harmless to other people. It's the most efficient.
Some other movie did that before.
The most
I don't remember
efficient
which
killing
movie.
tool known to mankind. Yeah, it sounds kind of familiar. I don't remember what it is.
Oh, that's Hobbs versus Shaw. You can set the virus to a person's DNA.
Yeah. Common Bond trope, doing a MacGuffin that's kind of been done before, but in a pretty interesting, unique way. So Bond is pulled out of retirement, where he's in Cuba again, right? Or no,
he's just some Caribbean island.
yeah, and then he goes to Cuba.
Yeah,
he goes to Cuba.
yeah.
Where he gets the Delectado cigar, which is in Die Another Day. That's the first of a few references to Die Another Day. And he's pulled back into to figure out what's going on with this DNA weapon by Felix Leiter, who's played by Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher. He meets up with Ana de Armas, and
oh, really quick, spoilers, duh.
yeah, all right, spoilers. We can drop that in earlier. I didn't even hear you. Scarlett just came home and I did not hear her. It scared me.
That's funny because I could see her. You noticed the call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah. No, the killer's escaping. I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about Ana de Armas.
Yeah, so he meets up with
my girlfriend.
Yeah, and he also meets the new 007. Felix Leiter is killed. Oh my God, this guy's doing construction downstairs and it's totally fucking me up. Why don't you finish this one? I'm getting distracted by 10 things.
So they get to Cuba. They're looking for Saffron and which is Rami Malek. They very, very quickly just get outside of Cuba. There's like this running joke that Ana de Armas is a brand new agent. She's only has like 3 weeks of training, but then she kicks all kinds of ass. Yeah. Bond's like, only 3 weeks? And she's like, yeah, I'm a quick learner or some shit like that. But like immediately leaves Cuba, and I
think this is where I stop, but all of Spectre is dead at this point.
Correct. Yeah. So it's supposed to be a trap. Like we find out that not Dr. No. Why can't I think of his name? Blofeld. Blofeld, who we find out is an adopted brother of James Bond in the previous movie. But Blofeld's in prison. He's in the most secure prison, but somehow he's actually still controlling Spectre from prison. And it's because of Left Eye. There's this goon that we see throughout the movie who has like a robotic eye, who I'm going to refer to as Left. Yeah, Left Eye. From this point hence, we will call him Left Eye. But he's actually he's talking to the rest of the Spectre agents through Left Eye's eye. And they go and they're going to use this virus to kill 007, but it turns out that somebody at this point, we don't know who, of course it's the main villain, Saffron, changes the code to kill the virus with change the virus to kill the Spectre agents.
That's right.
And then we find out we find out that this is actually a project that M, played by Ralph Fiennes, funded and created.
Ray Fiennes.
Yeah. But he kind of did this as a way to be a more tactical strike, more precise than a drone strike, more precise than an assassin, because you can set it to kill just that one person. But what he didn't realize is that people's DNA to their loved ones are close enough that it could, in theory, kill other people. And that's what ended up happening. Some of Spectre's family members died at like funerals. So now they're like, oh shit, we fucked up. We need to go get this virus. So they have to go get Madeline Swan, because Madeline Swan happens to be Blofeld's therapist and the only person that Blofeld will talk to. But Saffron gets to her first and is like, I saved your life, you owe me, and if you don't fucking take care of me, I'm gonna fucking kill 007. So he infects her with the virus to kill Blofeld, and then 007's like, ah shit, Blofeld's dead, now I gotta go take on Saffron. So eventually they figure out where Saffron's gonna be. It's on this little island that's
Saffron
between
without an R.
Yeah, Saffron. They figure out that, Saffon's on this island that's between Russia and Japan, and they got to go take it out with a missile strike. And at some point, 007 gets infected with the virus, but it's coded to Madeline. And twist, she has a daughter, and it's his. So he now knows that he can never see the love of his life or his daughter. So he decides to get killed in the missile strike that takes out this island and hopefully kills all the virus. But yeah, that's the movie. It's his final film, and 007 dies.
My main nitpick with this movie, I really enjoyed this, by the way. It was
long.
It was long, but I was in it for the whole thing. It didn't have any moments of like major sagging for me. My main complaint with it is that killing off Bond felt like more of a thing that they had to do because it was Daniel Craig's last movie. Whereas if this situation was actually happening, I feel like Bond would have escaped and said, nobody touch me. I'm going to be quarantined for the next 5 years until we figure this out, but I'm not going to die knowing that I have freedom and my daughter now.
They hand waved that away by when they had his little like funeral scene when in M's office. He like reads a quote and he's just like, living is about experiences and not prolonging the inevitable. Basically saying like, Bond, this is perfect for Bond because, there's no way he could have lived without, being with his daughter. But at least he gave them the freedom and they can now live their life. Because like,
I feel like if Q worked on that for a couple years, he would have broken it down.
It's weird that like an EMP or something, like these are robots. Like you can't just expose them to an EMP.
There's
something like that.
There's something.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I get why they did it, to close out this arc, and they're going to have to do like a hard reboot most likely. And that's the only thing that I'm kind of concerned about was like, we talked about it briefly when like they carried Dame Judi Dench over and kept her as M, and they kept, we ended up getting a younger Q, and we got a new Moneypenny, but we kept some of the characters, and like, I like Ben Whishaw as Q.
Yeah.
I like Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. And I like Ray Fiennes as well. So I wonder if they're going to completely erase this and get a whole new cast, or if they're going to, frankly, soft recon it.
Sorry. I was going to say, frankly, I like Lashana Lynch too. I'd be happy seeing great. 007 with her in it. And then at the, if you stick around after the credits, it says James Bond will return. So they clearly are going to reboot, white, blue-eyed James Bond. Maybe not blue-eyed, but they're going to reboot white male James Bond, which I don't have a problem with. But I would also watch Lashana Lynch, and since they're going to reboot, canonical whatever James Bond, makes it seem like they're not doing a Lashana Lynch spinoff, which is a little bit of a bummer.
I don't think they're.
Yeah,
and like Daniel Craig, for what it's worth, when they were doing the last movie Spectre, he didn't have a good go. He got hurt. He got hurt on this film. There was a point where they're like, oh, it's not going to delay shooting other than like the scenes with Daniel Craig and Rami Malek, because they don't share very much screen time in this movie, which, a lot of Bond villains don't share a lot of screen time with Bond in these movies. But Daniel Craig was very vocal about hating filming Spectre and wanting to be done, and that he would cut his wrist open before doing another Bond movie.
Yeah, he retired as Bond at least once, maybe twice, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, but he came back. They paid him a ton, of course, and like you can see it on YouTube and everything. But he gave this like really heartfelt speech where he kind of like teared up and talking about like he calls it out like to all the crew. He's like, I know that I was kind of a dick and was like, I fucking hate this. He goes, but that has nothing to do with you guys. I really enjoyed working with you guys all over the course of these 5 movies. So like clearly Daniel Craig cared about these movies, but I mean he's 53 years old and had to fucking work his ass off to get in shape for these movies. Like it's not easy to be 007, just like Hugh Jackman retiring from Wolverine. Yeah. Like it's your life.
Yeah, especially after 2000 or something. No shade to Timothy Dalton, but Pierce Brosnan and definitely Daniel Craig had a rougher go of it because there's just higher expectations because it's essentially a superhero movie now, and like you have to look incredible and you have to do scenes that has to look like you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, for a last movie, this was pretty good. It was definitely better than Spectre. Like Spectre, I think is probably the weakest. I actually think Spectre is weaker than Quantum of Solace, and a lot of people don't like that one. Now, Quantum of Solace is hard to watch on its own. The last time I watched it a couple of days after watching Casino Royale. I think Quantum of Solace on its own makes no sense, but it works when you watch it back to back with Casino Royale. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think this was a great send off for Bond. I don't think there's anything in this movie that blew my mind, though. I can't speak to like one action scene or anything. Like, I think this was a very paint by numbers, kind of a safe movie.
I don't disagree with that. I don't think they're breaking new ground on anything in terms of the set pieces or cinematography or whatever. But I think all of it was executed at a very high level. Yeah, and that's not to say that it's perfect. Oh, by the way, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is on the screenplay for this. I just saw that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm not saying that everything was an A+, but I think it was consistently very well executed across the board. And I
agree.
I think like one of the standouts for me was that Daniel Craig got to do like some more emotional scenes than we see James Bond do. And I bought it. I was into it. So
no, I think it was definitely earned at the end when he, obviously he knows that's his daughter and, Madeline's lying, and he kind of goes along with it. But like,
he's got a few of those
think there's only a few Bond movies that really tie in. So like George Lazenby's Bond, he gets married to a character, and then the following movie is Roger Moore's first movie, and he's at that person's grave kind of thing. So there's a little connection there, but for the most part we don't get any Bonds who have these deep emotional connections, and this Bond had too. He obviously was in love with Vesper, and they kind of used Vesper as her dying and also betraying him as a way to justify Bond's, sleeping around and not respecting women. And then he meets Madeline. I did not watch Spectre again before this. I wanted to, but I just didn't get to it. So I honestly don't remember his relationship with Madeline in the previous movie, if that necessarily felt like somebody he would run away with, but he did. And I bought the connection. I think all the acting in this was fine, but I mean, honestly, I'm going through my notes and there's not really anything in here that I feel is like super worth talking about other than Felix dying. He's another mainstay of the series. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was a Felix in the Brosnan ones, but like every other version of Bond had a Felix Leiter.
Yeah, I think the Brosnan ones just had I'm thinking of the he's a famous character actor, but there's a guy in GoldenEye, he's like a fat white dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, big boned white dude.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but it wasn't
Felix.
It's not Felix,
so right, it's just like another CIA guy.
This one does drop an F-bomb. M drops an F-bomb in this one at some point. But other than that, like
my only other like big nitpicks with it were this is sort of a backhanded compliment. Ana de Armas has a fantastic scene, and she kicks
I thought
all
she was
sorts
great.
of ass, and then she just like vanishes. She's like not in the rest of the movie, and that felt a little
odd.
Yeah, I hope she gets more roles like that. She was great.
I thought she was fantastic in this, and I really enjoyed seeing her. I think the biggest thing is Rami Malek. Like he's
I really enjoyed
a fantastic actor. I thought he was fine, but he wasn't given a ton to do, and he didn't age in 20 years.
Yeah. I guess like actually that's one of my other ones. It was weird that he chose to save the girl, but it's in the beginning of the movie, so you kind of get one of those things. You get a lot more leeway to something not quite making sense in the beginning of a movie. It's weird that he chose to save her, and then also weird that he chose to save her by shooting at her. She's like trapped under the ice.
I think it's like a symbolic thing because like this Bond villain, there's a couple things I didn't like about, like, in all the trailers you only ever saw him in the mask really, and then like except for one trailer you saw him without the mask for like a second. So like I was expecting this villain to be in the mask like the whole movie, and he's not.
I was expecting an explanation for why he has facial scars.
Yeah, well, they explained it because of the there was like an attack on his like family's compound, and like he got burned or whatever. Like they said
that doesn't
why
sound
he
like an
had it.
explanation, but okay.
I just don't remember. The movie was 3 hours long, and I'm in a theater, so I couldn't take notes like I normally do.
We showed up to AMC on City Walk at 2:30 for a 3:30 movie because we were gonna like have a coffee and hang out. By the way, the Starbucks at City Walk is closed.
Yeah.
Super weird. Why close a Starbucks in a huge place like that? So we hung out.
Probably the rent is too high.
I mean, I guess it's Starbucks though. So we hung out for an hour and then got into the movie, and there was like 40 minutes of trailers. By the time the Billie Eilish theme song rolled, it was an hour after we had sat down.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Like
Insane.
I went to a 4:30 show, and I didn't leave the theater until almost 8 o'clock.
It should be a crime how many previews there were. Like that is
it's gotten insane. Like
it's ridiculous. The movie started at 3, or the movie was supposed to start at 3:30, and it absolutely did not start until 4.
I had 9 trailers.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's a bit much. I think
I need to have a word
I
with
think
AMC.
10 to 15 minutes, which is 5 to 6 trailers. I think that's the limit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had 9,
which
is it's too much.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and then the fact that this is, a 2 hour and 48-minute movie.
Yeah.
Like I don't normally, like, Endgame, I did not have to get up and go to the bathroom in that movie. I had to get up twice in this movie. I got up during the Billie Eilish song.
Yep, same.
And then I got up,
which sounded
at some
okay, by
point
the way.
Yeah, I got up at some point in the middle of the movie. I'm like, okay, this is going to be, a bunch of establishing shots.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the
run.
moment that I got up.
I don't normally get up in movies, but like, yeah, this was like almost a 4-hour ordeal between everything. And I like to get to the movies like 10, 15 minutes early. And everything. So between that, the trailers, everything. Oh, it was long.
I was feeling bad about getting up during the theme song because like, oh man, the movie just started. Like, I don't want to get up this early. And then I got in the bathroom. I looked at my watch and I was like, I've been sitting here for an hour.
Yeah,
just eating popcorn.
So, but yeah, Rami Malek. To your point about saving the girl, I think he was a very symbolic person. Like multiple times he brought up like he liked kind of having this like cycle where it's just like, well, he survived the attack on his family. It kind of makes sense that I let this little girl survive the attack on her family because I'm going to kill her dad and her mom. And then he compares himself to Bond. He's like, you and I are pretty much the same. We're willing to kill for what we think is a better world. And, a lot of villains say that kind of thing to the heroes. You're not so different, you and I Mr. Bond.
Yeah, and I think that's specifically a Daniel Craig Bond thing, too. Because Blofeld is basically like that, too, right?
Exactly.
And also Javier Bardem.
Yeah, they're all of his villains are more or less like that.
It's called the Batman problem.
Yeah, so it is what it is. Like I said, there's not really anything. I don't think there's any standout moments in this movie
Another thing that jumped out to me as being a little weird was Lashana Lynch killing the Russian scientist, and she like kicks him into the vat of acid, and he's like,
was that what that was? It was acid. I didn't,
or whatever it is. It's poison, and
like
it dissolved his body,
but it killed him instantly. Like it was weird.
That's not what bothered me though. What bothered me is that guy was kind of like came off as a bumbling little weasel.
Yeah,
but not like an evil guy. Just sort of like arrogant because he's obviously brilliant, and but he also just seemed like he was kind of surviving. And then all of a sudden I don't remember it exactly, but it felt like his last line was something like, well, we could just make all the black people in the world disappear. And she was like, oh, fuck you. And then she kicked him into the acid. And I was like, why? I didn't know he was racist. Like that seems
that was weird.
Seemed a little out of character.
The fight in the woods was okay.
I really enjoyed that.
That was pretty solid.
I like that he kicked a car onto a guy. Oh, I like the guy that played. I liked the guy that played, and also just the character of Logan Ash.
Yeah.
the under boss, I guess.
He was like Scott Eastwood's character in the eighth Fast and the Furious movie, under Mr. Nobody.
Wasn't Scott Eastwood also in Spectre? Am I wrong?
I don't know. I don't remember Spectre, and I've only seen it the one time. Batista's in Spectre.
The Logan Ash character reminded me of a character that Ryan Murphy would cast in American Horror Story or something. He always casts these like very pretty, like well put together, light brunette frat boys, essentially, who are fucking psychopaths.
But yeah, this is, I don't know. Like it's weird. Like I feel like I should have more to say about this movie, but I think they played it really safe, and I don't think this movie took any major swings other than killing off Bond. But we all know, like, I don't know if that's even that big of a swing, because we all know
it's like
that they're going to come out with another version of Bond anyway. It's we weren't going to see Daniel Craig again anyway.
It's like unprecedented because I've never killed Bond before. But at the same time, I feel like in 2021, if they're making the final Daniel Craig movie, and based on all of the marketing material we've seen, it's like, oh yeah, they're probably going to kill him.
Yeah,
but I still had a moment like halfway through the movie where I was like, what have they not done with Bond that they could do here? Oh, they're gonna kill him. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and I was still kind of like, oh wow, okay, I guess we're going there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, like I applaud them for doing it, but it's kind of an empty gesture because it doesn't matter, because we know it's his last movie and we're gonna get somebody else anyway.
I don't know if I call it an empty gesture. I think it was a predictable but well executed, fitting send off to Daniel Craig.
For doing it, they did it well. But I don't think, I mean, it doesn't really have any weight in terms of, like, if they decided, I would say it would be fucking ballsy, and it would be a great gesture if they're like, okay, well, we're just going to, have...
it's not the Red Wedding.
Exactly. Like, it's not going to really have any relevance or matter to the franchise at large, because they're not, unless they decide that they're going to do like a direct sequel and have a different 007, because there's that theory, which obviously this version of with Daniel Craig is proven wrong, that a lot of people for decades thought that James Bond was a code name given to 007.
Yeah, which they kind of make a meta thing in this movie, making Lashana Lynch the next 007.
Yeah, and then they give it back to him. So if they go, okay, going forward, like if they make whoever the next Bond is, let's say it's Henry Cavill or Idris Elba or whoever it ends up being, they go, you're 007, you're now James Bond, and they make it a direct sequel to this, then I say that's a huge swing, and it's relevant. But if
I don't think they'll name him James Bond.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they change it and they make whoever 007 is James Bond, and it's a code name in honoring of this particular Bond, like M does that, then I say, okay, it's a big swing, and now we're doing something different. We're continuing the universe that 007 built. That's a huge swing. Whether or not it pays off and is good, who knows? But like, if they just go, all right, we're going to do a soft reboot and it's a new Bond and none of this continuity matters, I don't feel like the death has any weight.
Yeah, that's interesting. I back that. I would be more agreeable to your theory if they didn't say James Bond will return in the end, and I don't buy them saying that James Bond is like 007.
But that's been on every. That's been every James Bond movie has James Bond will return at the end of the credits. So that's nothing new. And so a lot,
I mean,
the way I read it was, of course,
Daniel Craig
of this, like the character, but I just think it means the franchise will return, the character will return. So if they do something crazy, like have this be part of the continuity, and there is just a new 007, it's a code name, I say, cool, that was a big swing, and obviously it needs to pay off in some way. But if they're just gonna do a full reboot, then to me,
yeah,
like,
I would.
It's a good goodbye to Daniel Craig, but it's not gonna change cinematic history.
I would have liked to have seen this universe and this continuity continue with Lashana Lynch in some capacity, even if she's not necessarily 007. Maybe the next movie is that there's some hotshot rookie that challenges her and she becomes disillusioned with being 007, and then there's sort of a rivalry or something. I don't know.
Right.
But it would be nice to have like Q and M and Moneypenny carry over and have like the history of this universe carry over.
Exactly. And if they do that, then I think the death is a much bigger deal. Yeah. But I mean, I'm repeating myself at that point. But yeah, if it's not, then it's a fitting goodbye to Daniel Craig, but it doesn't really mean anything for cinematic history if they just reboot him.
Do you have any other Easter eggs or references back to old James Bond movies that you want to point out?
I mean, obviously the Aston Martin. with the machine guns and everything, which he
Sure.
took from the end of Spectre.
That's not even an Easter egg. That's the biggest thing in the world.
That
right?
yeah, that's pretty open. Honestly, like I'm not the first person to say it, but Safin gave me a lot of Doctor No
They called him Doctor
kind of
at one
vibes.
point.
Yeah, with the the underwater island
yeah.
kind of lair, and this is like the first.
I really
think
like
this
the
might
design
be-
of his layer, by the way.
I think this might be the first Daniel Craig villain who has a lair that's not just like a corporate building or a hotel.
Yeah.
So I like that. So that's kind of a nod to the old Bond things.
Quantum of Solace has a layer in the middle of the desert, but I think it's not as like classic Bond as this one is.
That was supposed to be like a hotel that they were going to be building, though.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah,
So,
I think that's sort of
so-
skirting the line, but this is very much like this is a
Exactly.
secret layer.
but like this was a full-on secret lair, which I liked.
Also, by the way, we watched Squid Games this week, and then we watched Die Another Day, which is all about North and South Korea, and then we watched
Yeah.
this one that takes place on an island, just like Squid Games.
Yep.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is weird. Squid Game was so good. I'm just going through and it's like it's
I
a
had
perfectly
one.
fine movie. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a million of these, so feel free to leave them in our comments. Add us with more Easter eggs. But the one that stuck out to me was James pulls. Sorry, I'm collecting my thoughts. In the forest cat and mouse game, he pulls the rope from the winch,
Yeah.
taut so that it catches one of the bikers as he goes through it and like knocks him over. And he does the same thing in Die Another Day when he lands with the parachute and he like pulls it taut so that somebody following him on a
They also
motorcycle or
did
something
that.
can follow
I don't
him.
remember which movie, but Roger Moore has a scene where he's going downhill skiing and he goes between two trees with a rope and takes out some skiers that way too.
Yeah.
I'm just going through.
Oh, and I have another stupid nitpick. When Lashana Lynch kills the suddenly racist Russian guy, she says, "Do you know what time it is?" And he's like, "Huh?" And she says, "Time to die," and then kicks him off the
Yeah.
thing. I was like,
Yeah.
all right. I think the like puns and wordplay in this movie were a lot more fun and creative and interesting
Yeah.
compared to the Die Another Day ones. The Die Another Day stuff the Die Another Day stuff looked like it was shot on looks like they shot Halle Berry and Pierce Brosnan at two different times with people just feeding them lines, and then they created a scene out of that. It was just like back and forth, like nonsense shit that people wouldn't actually say to each other. And this
Yeah.
one, it was like, oh, they're having a conversation, they're flirting. This is nice.
Yeah. The only other note that I have, like they kill Blofeld dies.
Yeah.
And everything. So it seems odd that they made they went out of their way with Spectre to say that Christoph Waltz was not Blofeld, and then of course he was Blofeld, and so people felt annoyed by that. But you build him up to be Blofeld just to kill him in this movie. It was a little odd too. Like it's just they need to close all the loose ends and everything. So it's like there's a lot of things in here that's like they built up just to bring back down right away. And it's because clearly, like everybody in the world knows Daniel Craig was done with this series,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it was a miracle they got.
Yeah, it's 5
Got him to
movies.
do
Like
it
that's
again.
as many movies as I think you can expect to get out of somebody like that.
Yeah,
Even
it's, so,
even the Marvel stars basically do. They actually don't even do 5 movies worth, right? Because they usually do like 3 movies and then a couple team ups that they're not in every scene of. And Daniel
Right.
Craig did 5 movies where he's in every scene.
yeah, and he has to be ripped and do all the action stuff on it. But I mean, this is a fitting end to the chapter. I don't think this is anywhere even near. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I was
trying to wrap up for like 20 minutes.
No, it's fun to talk about. Sorry, my last thing is I noticed that they obviously used the Dark Knight Rises score as temp for this one. Like I was just hearing Dark Knight the entire third
Oh,
act.
that's funny.
And then like the third act is Dark Knight Rises, except he doesn't live.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right on that. I
Okay,
did
I'm
not
done.
draw that parallel. But just to wrap this up, this is a natural conclusion for the Daniel Craig Bond movies. It's a good movie. I enjoyed watching it. I definitely noticed the length of the movie. Like Endgame, when I watched that movie, I don't feel like it's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
I can get through that movie. This feels like a 3-hour movie. It's good. It's nowhere near his best movie. I think Casino Royale is still the best Daniel Craig one, and then Skyfall.
I think this and Skyfall are my favorites. Are the best.
Oh, really? I think
Casino
Casino Royale's
Yeah, I think
so
Casino
good.
Royale is great, but I think Skyfall and this one are a bit more focused.
See, even Skyfall, I thought got a little hokey at the end.
I mean,
but I thought it was
and like Casino Royale also has like a 45-minute card game, which is interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not like shitting on it, but like it's a
But at
45-minute
least that's
card
broken
game
up
in
by
the
them
middle of
taking
a
breaks, and he
action movie.
assassinates the guy in the stairwell, and then he has this heart attack, and he has to get defibrillated. Like, I felt like it broke up the monotony pretty well. But I mean, Daniel Craig put a stamp. Like, this is, I think, for a lot of people, the definitive version of Bond. It's between him and Sean Connery is what most people feel are the two best Bonds.
Yeah.
So I commend Daniel Craig for, reshaping Bond for the modern era. Outlasted Jason Bourne, like the Bourne movies, and I think overall these movies will have a better reputation than the Bourne movies, other than the first three.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was really heavily modeled after that. I would like to see it go into a more fun direction. Like, I wouldn't be, disappointed if this went back to the 60s and made it more like a period piece. I wouldn't mind if it went back to, being silly with gadgets, a la like the Kingsman, but we'll see where it goes.
I wonder if they try to get somebody younger, somebody that's like in their late 20s or early 30s and do like Bond year one, and they just have more fun because it's a younger person,
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really excited to see where it goes. The Broccoli family it's going to be completely different. This is now, MGM is now owned by Amazon. They've said that they will continue to make the Bond movies for theatrical. We'll see what that actually means. We'll see if we're going to get TV shows, but they have said that they're going to finish off 2021. They're not going to start doing the casting process until 2022, but they're hoping to make an announcement on whoever the next Bond will be at some point next year.
Yeah. Cool.
So cool. Give us your plugs, bud.
Yeah, man. I'm on the Instagrams at Dyslexic, D-Y-S Alex I-C. I'm on Twitter at Polishi, P-U-L-I-S-C-I, and I'm currently most active on TikTok at Polishi. It's just the same thing that I just said, but twice.
You guys can check out everything that's MDXpods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at MDXpods. If you want to support the show, you can do that two ways now. You can go to patreon.com/MDXpods and you can get early access, extra bonus material, or you can check out the link in our description or go to audibletrial.com/remake rewind.
And we're both on Letterboxd, aren't we?
We are both on Letterboxd. Where are you on Letterboxd?
I'm at Polishi.
And I'm at MDX Mike, and I need to update. I haven't updated it in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I've got like 5 or 6 reviews I have to put on there. But yeah, check us out. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.